The Pantera 265Q thermal scope, right now on Pirate Firearms and Reloading. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I'm pretty excited on this one. This is going to be my first serious go at thermals mounted on a firearm. So a couple of things in the past have put me off. I'm not gonna lie to you, prices is one of them. I've always used night vision, whether that be image intensification as in like proper goggles and that, or digital night vision up until recently. But the 265Q is a really competitive price. And as you can probably already tell on the box, and I take it if you're clicking on this video, you may know something about this already. It's basically the size of a low power variable optic anyway, so it kind of works a little bit better rather than these goofy cantilever mounted, like strange space age looking things. There's two other kind of things that have put me off thermal. Night vision, works through glass, you get better target identification, as long as you've got a good quality night vision device, I will say. You don't quite get the obvious detection of thermal, but you can do a lot more under night vision than you can with thermal. So that's kind of what put me off. The other big thing here in New Zealand, we have public land, like we call it DOC, or Department of Conservation land, very similar to what you might call BLM land in the States, right? And you are not allowed to hunt with a thermal device affixed to your rifle. So you can have a handheld thermal monocular, but you are not allowed to actually have thermal mounted on. And so that sort of limits a few people too. If you're on private property and you have permission, all that, yeah, absolutely, you can use thermal. And this is kind of what this is going to be for, is more pest control. But I am going to put it in a QD mount, so I will have the option to put it over to a centerfire rifle later on. But it's going to start life on my pest control 1022, which you've all seen on the channel before. So let's go ahead and unbox it. Really good setup in terms of the box. At the end of the day, I don't really care so much about the box as long as it's well packaged. But part have gone to the I wouldn't say the extreme, but they've gone and made it really nice. And look, this is not my first PARD device. I do have a 007, the rear-mounted clip-on night vision adapter for a day scope, and that's been awesome, and I still love that device. Really cool that you can just swap it between rifles and put a different adapter tube on. So they give you a nice neoprene cover. I do like these things for scopes, just saves like scrapes and knocks in the safe basically. Because I'm in New Zealand, I get a little card from PARD New Zealand, jump online, register, download your manual, do all your things. I will say the one thing that does disappoint me, it doesn't come with a paper manual. You do have to jump online and download it. Not the end of the world, but I found a little hard to find the manual for the 265. The normal full-size Pantera, I could find the manual, but not this one straight off the bat. It took a bit of work. So, nice, good quality foam packing, keeping everything. We'll start with the accessories. So you do get a rear eye cup if that's your preference. Love them or hate them, they give you one. And I have actually had this open. This is the accessory box. So they do give you a USB-C to USB-A cable. Thank you for using USB-C. I don't know why we have any other cables still left. They give you a set of Allen key, nice, actually really decent quality microfiber. They actually give you two. What they actually do include with it is a set of scope rings. Now they are rather high, as you can actually seem really nice quality, so not terrible, but I won't be using them. Out of irony, they are, they're basically the same height as the spur mount I intend on using. I'll talk about that in a few seconds, so we'll just drop those back in there. So nice little accessory pouch. And the thing you actually came here for, the actual scope itself. So as you can see, LPVO style scope. So they come with the battery reinstall. It is an 18650 battery. You do have to take the little backing thing off there, but this is your battery cap here. Back that guy off, battery in there. I've just chucked in another battery in the meantime while I'm charging the one that came with it. So standard flat base on there, which is going to come in really critical when I use the wedge to level this in the spur mount. And the cool thing about this does have a gyro and a compass built in, so it will tell you if you are canted. The front lens cap is a fixed one with a hinge off to the side, and it does have a detent that holds it to the side. The rear is just a silicone slip-on cap, and you still haven't basically what counts for your diopter adjustment on the back. USB-C port here in the side is not for charging, it is purely for getting the video recordings and that off the device. So it has 32 gigs built into it, so no SD cards, no corrupted SDs and things like that. So you have 3 main buttons here on the side, and this top turret is also a button which you can click down. The where your parallax adjustment would normally be is your focus. So if you're coming from a normal rifle scope, it's actually fairly intuitive, which I have to say is a big win. So many of the sort of thermal and night vision devices out there are so complicated that, you know, it takes you weeks and weeks to learn how. So I will fire this guy up for you and we'll see if we can get it somewhat in the camera without too much reflection. Oh, sorry, your power button is here on the side. If you just tap it, that puts it like into a standby mode. If you hold it, that's your power on, power off. So we'll see what happens here. There we go, so we can see PARD. I don't know if I'm going to get this to focus perfectly. Let's turn the dial, but no, okay, obviously not. All right, so it is a square display. I know some of the newer PARD devices coming out do have a round screen, which is definitely a more natural view. This one still has a square display. And it turns back off, and you can see it's doing the power down, PARD logo again, and now we're off. Okay, so I'm going to put up some footage of here that is through the internal recording, because I can't really show you screens through cameras. It just never seems to work properly. So a couple of little gripes that people have had that I've seen out there that sort of made me think about it, but actually not a problem. The eye relief is about 50 millimeters. Now, just because that's the eye relief with the full view of the screen, you can actually, you know, scoot back a little bit if you're worried about it touching your face. Higher caliber firearm too, this is where your little silicon eye cap comes in, because it's just gonna give you a friendly reminder when it pushes up against your face that you are close enough, and don't get any closer. It's only going on a 22 at this stage. Like I said, I think probably the biggest thing this will go on is my 300 blackout, which I use, you know, control pigs and larger animals. But yeah, really nice footprint. And to give you an idea, I'm basically going to have an option to switch back and forth. This is my Vortex Strike Eagle that has been on my Pest Control 22 for years. It does have the PARD 007 adapter here on the back. So essentially you're dealing with, you know, a slightly longer setup, but same sort of minimal LVPO. Yeah, your turrets are bigger because you've got to house a battery and switches and things like that. But ultimately it's not that different. So what I'm going to do for you now, I've made a little test rig, an Arca to Picatinny rail. I'm going to go ahead, throw the scope into the spur mount. Now, if you are interested in the spur mount, this is a QD, which is the quick detach 3616. So 30 millimeter tube, 6 mils of cant. Can't remember what the one is. Oh, one is your height. So this is basically the second. You start at 0, 1. So the second height, and you don't really get a choice when you go to QD. I think they all start at 1. And I cannot remember what the last 6 is. I think it's cantilever. So really, really nice high quality mounts. I've covered these on the channel before. They're just so robust. So that's hopefully, in a perfect world, I'm going to have my regular glass optic in one and my thermal in the other, and I'll be able to switch them out. I'll talk about it later too in my full breakdown of this device, but you can set multiple profiles, which also include multiple zeros on the scope. So in theory, I can clip that onto my 22 and be on profile A for the 0. If I put it to my 300 blackout, I can clip it on there, change it to profile B. My 0 is still there from last time. So that's actually quite a nice feature because a lot of people, if you're going to invest in a thermal optic like this, will want to use it on multiple things and for multiple different, if I go back to target shooting or something like that, obviously the thermal's not really any good when you're target shooting unless you have a thermal target. And that's something else I was going to show you. You've got a couple of options when you zero thermals. You can heat up little bits of metal and things like that. There's these thermovision target pads from AMR. They look really good. I've seen a friend of mine using them on his thermal scope. Basically they react with air, so you peel the little thing off. They have a chemical reaction with oxygen and they heat themselves up. And so you can see them really easy in your scope. What I am going to try, and I've seen a few people do, is aluminium, like refrigerant HVAC tape. So it's literally a thin aluminium sort of foil with an adhesive back on it, and obviously that will, being shiny, will either heat up or probably reflect heat more and come up in the scope. So I'm going to play around with both options and we'll just see how they go. So I'm going to go ahead and get it mounted. I'm going to get you guys some introductory test footage of playing around the different color palettes, all those things, and I'll talk about that there. And then once I've had a chance to zero it, shoot it, do all those things, then I'll come back and do a full review for you guys and give you my thoughts and hopefully give you a bit more of an idea of how to set these up in terms of all the different options, because the menu is pretty extensive. So let's get into the footage through the scope.
So the first thing I wanted to show you is that I can actually plug my Android phone directly into the PARD 265 and actually transfer them via the camera importer. So I've got a Samsung running the Android app, and yeah, so you can import them. I would understand you could probably do this on iPhone as well. I'm going to just skip ahead and show you what they look like when they're actually on the phone. So here you can see them in my photos library, and you can obviously play the videos straight back, share them with other people, upload them to the cloud, whatever works. So that's a really nice feature if you're out and about and you don't have access to a computer immediately and you want to offload those files. Right, so this is a relatively small bird at approximately 20 meters. It is evening and it is dark, but you can see on a relatively warm night, the contrast becomes a little bit hard to tell. It's easier at 2 times magnification, but beyond that, when you get into 6 and 8, it's very hard to even tell it's a bird. Now, before anybody gets bent out of shape, I just want to remind you this is not attached to a firearm. It is in my test rig I showed you earlier. Right, this is my dog sitting in her lazy boy in the evening, and I'm just going through the colors. So this is obviously black hot, red hot, which highlights the hottest parts, indigo, and finally sky. Right, so this is a demonstration of the picture-in-picture mode. So in the top screen, that is the zoomed window, so minimum of 2 magnification and a maximum of 8, and the main window remains at 1x. So here's it through the different color palettes as well. Right, so here's the dog chasing a ball in the backyard. So I have the scope itself set up on the tripod rig about 20 meters away. For a scale reference, that ball is fractionally smaller than a basketball, and she's a hunt away heading dog cross, so that gives you a little bit of an idea too. Now, red hot I want to talk about is based in white hot, and as you can see, it's actually highlighting a rock up on the rock wall as well. So you do have to be a little bit careful about getting false readings and things like that. The indigo probably gives a little bit more contrast than the white hot, but these are all going to come down to personal preference. To give you an idea of how accurate the sensor is and how much it picks up, you can see my dog leaving the spot where she was laying on the grass and the heat signature remaining for a reasonable amount of time. So it is a nice and good quality sensor that's still picking up these contrasts really well. So we'll just flick through the color palettes here. We're currently in city mode. I definitely don't live in a city, but now we're in rain mode. It's like a rain and fog mode. You see it sort of blurs things a little bit. And then we flick into forest mode, indicated by the little trees, which tends to smooth out the effects of the image to a certain extent. So here we have some sheep at bang on 500 meters. So as you can see, they're a little black dot. So you are actually detecting them, but identification is pretty hard until we start seeing that one move by the right hand 2 on my reticle. So I'm just going to flick through the different zooms and the different color palettes. So this being black hot, now we'll go to red hot. So the red hot does highlight them a little bit better. Indigo has good contrast but is quite muddied. I quite like the sky actually over the white hot. It seems to be a lighter version with more contrast. And as you can see them start to move. Now I'm going to show you the difference between super resolution on and off. So up until now I've actually had it on, and now you can see the sheep at 500 meters just turn into a blurry little blob with no distinguishable shape whatsoever. And it doesn't matter what color palette you use, they still are just simply a blurry blob. So now I'm going to go back into the menu and turn the super resolution back on, and you can just see the difference of me flicking that on and off. It does make a big difference. Now, as a disclaimer, super resolution does draw more battery. That's to be expected with any electronic device. When you ask it to have more processing power, it will draw more battery. I have also seen that when you have super resolution on, you have a slightly slower frame rate. Now that could be me, that could actually be the device. So I hope this gives you an understanding of how cool the PARD 265 Pantera is, and I will be doing a full final review a little bit later on in the channel. If you have any questions, please hit me up in the comments down below, and until next time and the next video, happy shooting. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Catch you next time.